Rebound Part 1 is a brilliant Cheers episode, but it's very difficult to watch. This is the first episode of the third season, directed by the wonderful James Burrows, and there will be spoilers from this point on. I won't spoil anything that happens in future episodes, but I will discuss things in a bit of detail from this point with some spoilers. And there are quite a lot of things that are really difficult about this episode, but there are a lot of wonderful things. And it's difficult for so many reasons, and the most obvious reason is the fact that Sam has been drinking again. And it actually took me a couple of seconds to realise he was drunk. Not because he wasn't acting drunk, but because it's a bar, it's Cheers. We're used to seeing people being tipsy, a little bit drunk. And then after a couple of seconds, I realised, and I felt sick because we love Sam, and we know Sam has a history of alcoholism, and goodness knows what's going to happen, at least in this episode, what's going to happen with the future of the character. It's also an upsetting episode because Nicholas Colasanto has clearly lost a lot of weight, and I don't want to say too much about what happens with the character of Coach, but he was not very well at this time, Colasanto, and that's really upsetting to see as well. That's obviously outside of the main narrative, but it's still something that I can't help focusing on when watching this. We do have a positive aspect to this episode, with Diane being really happy and really positive and really upbeat. We learn that she's spent several months on a sane vacation, as she keeps calling it. Basically, she's been in a sanitarium, a mental health facility, if you like, and she's in a place in her life where she's finally ready to move forward and move on. And it's clearly been a difficult journey for her, but it's really nice to see her smiling throughout the entire episode. It's a stark contrast to the bravado that we get from Sam. And we have some comedy, of course we do. It's Cheers. My favourite bit in the whole thing is when when Carla grabbed onto the back of Norm's head and just yanked him backwards. It was just very well done. In fact, I'd say most of the comedy in this comes from Carla, but I'll be honest, the comedy is few and far between. It's a very heavy opening to a season, very, very heavy, but it's so well done. It's addressing such an important topic that I can't fault it. I think it's beautifully written. Ted Danson does a great job with the character. I don't like seeing Sam like this, but his performance was great. He's also dressed a little less immaculately than usual, which I think was a really good decision as well. Definitely helped to show that he'd been unraveling and not looking after himself the way he used to. Of course, the great thing about this, and something I'm really looking forward to with rewatching this season, is that we have the introduction to Frasier. And Frasier's introduction was actually very funny. I won't say, well, I said spoilers, so I guess it's fine. The fact that he just had spent the entire time just sitting there casually, completely without focus on him, and then he just pops up all of a sudden, and it was a bit of comedy when we needed it. We don't really get to know Frasier here, and I feel like, based just purely on this episode, if we never saw him again, aside from it being a slight plot hole and, wondering where he disappeared to, we wouldn't miss much. We don't really get to know the character here, but obviously Frasier becomes so iconic, both in Cheers and then afterwards, and I love him. So I'm really looking forward to having more Frasier and getting to know Frasier more. Frasier in the early days has a lot of mannerisms like Niles, which I love. Didn't really see very much of that here, but again, looking forward to it going forward. Something else I found funny, actually, was the tie. Coach's tie and the role that played in injecting a little bit of humour when we needed it. They definitely managed to put in just enough humour that it wasn't just a depressing drama, but not too much that it overshadowed the seriousness of the situation. It's unusual to have a season beginning with part 1, and it's unusual to have a season beginning with something quite so heavy, especially after we ended the previous season on a really heavy note as well. It can be done, and Cheers does it very, very well. Rebound Part 1 is a very difficult episode to watch, but it's beautifully written, beautifully performed, and all things considered, I can't fault it.